Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of Fourth Wing, where today we are going to discuss the book in detail. So there will be spoilers. We are not holding back. So if you don't want the story or the book ruined for you, then please exit now. You've got about 10 seconds before we spoil everything. So, all right. So I know, Noel, you and I, we've read the book once and we've listened to the audiobook once. Lauren, you've listened to the audiobook. You actually literally just finished today, this morning. So
I'm great at that.
Since it's so fresh. So let's just kind of start from the beginning of the book. So what did you guys think about the mother?
She reminded me of like a Cruella de Vil, or something where Lady Tara Maine from Lady and the Tramp. I don't know, just someone, or Cinderella. I mean, someone who just was uncaring and just cared about her duty.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't feel very motherly.
No,
even from the very beginning.
Yeah, she definitely felt like I felt like her daughter's life did not matter, and it was just all about status, and it didn't matter if, sending her daughter into the Rider quadrant would kill her, which there's huge possibility because she's got a chronic, illness. And she's also very petite, very frail, and sending her into this ruthless quadrant where over 50%, I think it was, died, maybe even more. I think the mother secretly did that because she just wanted her gone. Because I think she feels that her Violet was a strain on the family name, if that makes sense. Like, not as strong as Mira or Brennan, and just wanted her out. And this would be the way to get rid of her daughter without, getting rid of her daughter.
Well, I think, because I love a good villain, that I think that she has some deep-rooted family issues. Like, I feel like that's something that could be expanded on in the next few books that we may come to know. Mm-hmm. Because as much as, yes, she seems like she might be trying to get rid of her, there was a part in the first chapter where it seems like there is a little bit of sympathy. And I feel like she's pushed to a brink where she felt like she was like, well, I'm going to take this risk anyways with Violet. So to me, I felt like she was... I don't think she was not caring. I think she cared to a certain extent, but I felt like something had pushed her. And that's an underlying theme that maybe will be expanded in the future. So I guess I'm feeling a little bit of sympathy, even though I don't like her. Don't get me wrong. I didn't like her 100%. I feel like there's more to her story as to why she comes off a little bit evil.
Yeah.
And why she feels the need to risk her daughter. She saw something in her, because she hints at it in the first chapter, that she sees something in her that not everybody else does, including Dane, including Mira, especially Mira, because in the beginning, Mira was like, no. And she felt like, no, it's worth taking a risk. So I feel like it was more of her taking a risk, probably secretly, even though that's not really the best thing you should do with your child. I feel like she had some kind of weird feeling, excuse me. So yeah, that's me.
No,
I know you're holding back. What do you think of the mom?
No, I was saying maybe there is something to that, because when her mother was pregnant with her, when Lilith was pregnant with Violet, she had a really bad sickness. Wasn't it the flu or something? And so that's why Violet's hair goes from a dark brown down to the silver blonde streaks. So maybe her mom does know, this is spoilers here, right? Maybe she did know that Violet would have something strong like a lightning signet. Who knows?
Yeah.
And being a scribe, she would have never activated that.
I have one more irony note too, is that her name's Lilith. And if you've studied religion like I have,
she's evil.
She's evil, but that's what Christians want you to believe. But Lilith actually stuck up for herself. It's a long story.
Yeah.
So Lilith is actually a very powerful woman name.
Yeah, definitely. The mom intrigues me. I don't like her. And the first chapter, I get what you're saying. I felt the sympathy, but then throughout the book, just how she ignores Violet.
And she calls her Cadet Sorrengail, barely calls her daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's
you can just tell that they were never close.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you could definitely tell Violet was really close to her father because her
Her
father was
dad.
a scribe, and she was training to become a scribe as well. And so she's obviously more of a book nerd, and loves reading, loves history, loves everything of the word. And obviously her siblings Mira and Brennan are the opposite. They're more like the mother. They were writers, Mira is a writer, Brennan was a writer, and they were following after their mother, and hopefully we find a little bit more about why the mother treats Violet like that, and kind of is very harsh and cold to her, especially in times when she doesn't need to be. Obviously if they're in a military setting, there's that proper protocol procedure, you got to be a certain way. But when that breaks, like, why still be cold to your child? Why not ask how they're doing, find out and congratulate them. You've done wonderful, so far in the quadrant, things like that. So, the sister, I love the sister. You could tell is big sister, protects little sister, looks after little sister, and is pretty much like there to help her and guide her no matter what. I loved Mira's character. I don't think there was one thing where I was like, Mira's not a good person. You could tell Mira cares about people. She cares about doing her job to her country, but she also cares about people individually, and she's willing to break certain rules in order to show compassion.
Agree.
Yeah. So it's way more than I could say for Dane.
We both feel a certain way.
So in the beginning, I loved Dane. I was like, okay, this is Violet's bestie. You could tell there was tension. They're definitely hot for one another. Apparently he's looking rugged with his like beard, and he's looking good, right?
He's handsome. Right.
Oh yeah. And he's here, but the thing that bothered me with Dane is he kept trying to push Violet out of the writer's quadrant, but she knows she can't leave because her mother would just put her back. So why even go through that? Might as well just try, because her mother's just going to keep putting her back. But why, I'm interested in learning, why does Dane want her out so bad? I think there's another reason that we have not found out yet that we'll find out in further books. He doesn't want her in there, and it's not just for her protection. He wants her out of there because I think he knows she's smart and she'll figure stuff out. And with his clearance level, being able to read minds when he touches people, I think he knows things and knows that if she finds out, she's not going to stop till stuff's changed.
Potentially, you could be right.
I think he knows about the creatures. And I forget how they're pronounced, Noel.
Venin and Wyvern.
Yes. Okay. I think he knows that they're real. I think he knows what's really going on at the borders. And I think he knows that if she finds out, her being a scribe, and we know scribes can basically change the world, that she's going to make changes, and he doesn't want it to, for whatever reason. I don't know if you guys kind of feel the same or what, but
I liked him at first, and then when they kissed and there was nothing, I was like, thank God, because I had already been like, ooh, like looking at Zaddy over here, like Zayden, I mean, like, okay, I hope Zaddy, that's what he's called, that's what people call him. I as soon as like Zayden's character was introduced and he has that personality and stuff, I immediately didn't care about any scene with Dane. I was like, okay, all right, Dane, bye. Like, you're annoying.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was funny. Yeah, when Dane kisses Violet for the first time, and she's describing like fireworks, and then she's like, and there was nothing.
And then it stopped.
Yeah. Laughing. I was like, that is like funny. It's like, and that's kind of relates to real life, right? Like, you like someone, you have a crush, you think it's going, and then they kiss you, and you're just like,
and if there's no chemistry, you can't.
Disappointment.
I've definitely.
I know, that's why
she knows many stories, but I've definitely had that where you're like building up, and then you're like,
and the pure disappointment, you're like, crap.
And then I've had other moments where I don't see it coming, and then I'm like, oh my God.
Well, yeah, right. And that kind of relates to like her and Zayden and how their relationship kind of progresses throughout the book. They mortal enemies, his dad killed her brother. So her mom executed his dad because him and all his people were part of the traitors who rebelled, which I got a whole theory on that. Rebelled. Rebelled against Navari. And so you would think that it's going to be this hostility, but obviously there's like an attraction on a physical level, right? Like obviously she's very beautiful and he's obviously smoking hot, Mr. Zaddy over here, just like badass. But for her, obviously it's a little confusing because Dane is also like daddy, right?
I think it's Xaden's personality too.
Yes.
That there are some men in general who they're attractive, but when you get to know their personality, it makes it so they're so much more attractive. That's how I feel Xaden. I feel like anyone would probably look at Dane and be like, "Oh, he's really attractive. He's handsome," and not maybe every woman would look at Xaden and immediately have that same thought.
Yeah.
But like his voice and the deepness,
it's
and
the
listen,
confidence.
like
I think
confidence,
the confidence.
yes,
that's 100%.
And the banter back and forth. It's all of that. Yeah.
I think it's pure confidence on his part, because obviously he's an asshole through about almost 3/4 of the book. But his confidence is exudes. I kind of say I love the fact that whenever Violet sees him, she flips him off.
Yeah.
I start laughing.
Yeah.
She's walking in the courtyard, sees him, flips him off, and then just keeps walking on. And it's just so great seeing how they evolve from literally being enemies, being annoyed at each other to, okay, we have to work together. We have no choice, because obviously, our dragons are mated. So whether we like each other or not is irrelevant. We have to be within proximity of one another. So we might as well tolerate one another, and how that builds and builds and builds to chemistry. And then obviously the wham bam thank you ma'am scenes, and then how like she's very open about how she loves him, and he can't say it until the fact that he's lost her. But can I say I saw that coming too? I knew there would be a turning point in the book where he would break her trust or whatnot, and that at that point he would know he needs to let her know, like, I love you. And at that point she's like, I'm done. I just kind of had that feeling all along, and it led there, because in most books that's usually the only time the person who's unwilling to like relinquish the control and say how they feel comes to plight is when the person walks away.
Right.
And isn't that typical? No offense, I'm probably the only single one here. In relationships and the single time dating, where you're like, I'm walking away, and then a man's like, so it's just, to me, it's typical, but the way she does it makes it relatable to where you still like it. You're like, yes, this is a little predictable. Yes, this is a little bit typical.
Yeah.
But you relate to it so much, because I don't know about you, but I've definitely loved somebody so much that I've hated them before.
Yeah. Well, and it's the whole, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Like, don't take advantage of the opportunity presented in front of you. And like, no matter if you're scared, if someone's there and they're, telling you how they feel, like, tell them how you feel. At least be open and honest. Don't hold back. Don't lie. Don't keep secrets, obviously, because secrets are your enemy, right? Especially if you love the person, you don't keep secrets. But I know we've kind of gone off course, but so actually I just lost my train of thought. Wow. Okay, so
we can talk about the side characters, or
that, or the dragons, because I love the dragons, but we could do side characters right now.
Okay, we'll do side characters first. My favorite side character was Riddick. Liam, even though I feel like Liam's not, he's in between a side character and a main character because he became such a big part of the story to me. But I loved Riddick. I loved how sarcastic, and he always just wanted to joke around. I feel like we needed a character like that in the book, so it wasn't always so serious.
Yeah.
Rhiannon was a really good friend, and I was worried for a while. What if she's getting so close to this girl and this girl will betray her? But at least not in this book, she didn't betray her. So I was really happy for their close friendship. And then Liam, you just grow to love him so much that he, became friends with her, and he was becoming her shadow initially out of being asked to do that or told by Xaden. But then it got to a point where he wanted to just be around her to protect her. And I really loved that she had that relationship.
Yeah. I loved Liam and his obligation to do what Xaden said, because of the sacrifices that Xaden made and the promise that he made, I thought was really good. But I kind of felt for him, because you kind of feel bad for him, because he feels like he has no choice. But at the end of the day, like, he still does what's being told of him with a smile on his face, and he tries to at least make the best out of his days. Him having to basically follow along Violet to make sure no one attacks her, but he's becoming friends with her. He's learning more about her, she's learning more about him, she's learning stuff about the rebel kids that she was never informed of, and so she's getting a deeper, better understanding than other people. Like Dane wouldn't know, Amber wouldn't know, Rip, all the other people who don't have that knowledge. They just look at these rebel kids as these are horrible people, when they didn't do anything.
Right.
They're parents, but they're being punished for their parents' actions, right? So I like how she has taken upon herself to try to get to know them, and sympathize with them. They lost everything. They lost their parents, they lost their homes, and now they're being forced to go into this quadrant where they could possibly die. And it's either go into the quadrant or die. So it's like, okay, I'm taking 50-50 chance here on surviving. And so I like the fact that she's actually opened up her heart and her mind to accept, something that she was told was horrible.
Yeah, I loved Liam. I actually thought he was a little bit funny. Because he was a little bit of a flirt with her friend, who I forget what her name was.
Rhiannon?
No, not
No, it was Jasenia.
Oh, Jasenia. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I loved that part in the book where she's like, come on, no, she's not like a fling kind of girl.
Yeah.
Stop flirting with her. I loved that part of the book. Like, I can't wait.
It was like his personality was a natural, like a flirt. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
because you were talking about like Riddick giving a little bit of comedic relief. That part was a little bit of comedic relief for me. Like,
it was true.
The seriousness of the book, and I was like, oh, it's so cute, and how he would like make little dragons.
Yeah,
and stuff like, here's this macho guy making little dragons, and I was like, what?
Kind of reminds me of Tangled with the big guy that collects the little tiny unicorns.
Yeah, you're like, what the world? This big guy's making little. Okay,
I think it just sent it. So since you mentioned her, I love the fact that not only did Rebecca Yarros write in Violet, who obviously has a chronic physical disease, essentially, she also writes in LGB characters, but she also wrote in a deaf character. So if people didn't catch on Jacinta's deaf, and the fact that like
Jasenia,
that's what. Sorry,
yeah, I was
Jasenia,
like,
I'm like, wait, sorry,
Jasenia.
Jasenia,
sorry.
How he was signing with her, because not a lot of people know sign language, and so the fact that she wrote this in the book, and then this girl, she the guy who also can sign, and you can see that there would have been a relationship building, and so that's kind of what just like breaks my heart, is the fact that he doesn't make it, that kind of broke my heart. And the fact that he was physically fine, but because his dragon died, he died. And that's the only thing I didn't like about the book, because it really got me. I was like, poor Liam. I was like, what happened? No. But the riders can die and the dragons are fine. So I that's the only thing that doesn't make sense with me, is why would the dragons be fine if the riders die, but if the dragons die, the riders die too?
Oh, I thought
if the dragon dies, the rider dies.
Dragon dies, the rider dies. But if the
rider dies, the dragon does not die, except for in extreme circumstances. If the bond was so strong, the dragons can die, but that's very rare.
But then it was the other way around with the wyvern and the venom, correct?
Yes, because
if you kill the wyvern.
Well, no. So,
if you kill the wyvern, then if you kill the venom, then the wyvern died. Well, that was created by that venom.
They were creatures that I believe the venom made.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how they were connected. So.
But I thought if you killed a wyvern, you killed the venom.
No.
I got it mixed up.
No, you killed the venom, and all the wyverns that it controlled died.
Yes.
So
yes, sorry. That is what my notes say. I was saying it backwards.
But yeah, so that was just the sad part, because he was physically fine. There was nothing wrong with him, but just because his dragon died, he died. And that kind of like that's like really like difficult because you're like, I mean, their dragon could die anywhere. Like you could be like having lunch with your friends and your dragon die and poof, you're dead now too. Like if you think about it, like, and there's great risk becoming a writer. Not only is there a risk when you join the quadrant to become a cadet and then graduate, but even after you graduate, you have to risk. What if your dragon, gets harmed? What if another dragon kills your dragon? Like you're a goner no matter what. Like there's no separation. So I thought that was a really interesting thing in the book. And it made me a little sad with Liam. Actually a lot sad because I loved his character. I thought he was good. I did love Riddick. I loved his banter. I loved how he was just a flirt with everyone, but it wasn't like a serious flirting. It was just more like to ease everyone's tension. Like I feel like Riddick knew when there were times where everyone was super tense and was like trying to break the tension.
Like a class clown. That's what he was.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was really good. I love Rhiannon. She's Violet's wing girl. I love her. I thought was absolutely amazing how her and Violet, how they met going onto the parapet, and how Violet gave her one of her shoes. So that way, she had just met her, didn't even know her, gave her one of her shoes. So that way she could make it across. And that I think really just formed that instant bond. And I think since that point, I think Rhiannon is Team Violet for the rest of her life. Cause I think she knows had Violet not done that, she would have fallen. And done.
Yeah.
Flatline.
That was an interesting scene. I'd love to see that played out. I like that she was sex positive too. You don't see too many sex positive, like female fronted characters in books. Like, yes, there's sex positivity in books, but an actual sex positive female, almost main character, side character.
Yeah.
She was just, I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, you definitely don't see that a lot in books or hear about it.
Empowered women.
Oh yeah. I think I can't remember. Were there any gay men in the books? I think so. I think there was one character. I forgot his name because I don't think he was in it that long. I think he went splat pretty soon into it. But so Noel, why don't you tell us some of the characters you loved and why and kind of.
Well, do you want to talk about the dragons? Because the dragons were some of my favorite characters. So I knew going into the book that there would be dragons, but I didn't realize that dragons would have such personalities and be individual characters of themselves. So Tern is Violet's first, big main dragon. He is a stubborn, cranky, very old dragon that hasn't had a rider for a very long time. So I love how he is with Violet. Then there's Andarna, the little baby golden dragon who's very young at 2 years old. I love how she's just sweet and innocent. And she's just and she has little paws without claws. And I could totally picture her just being the sweetest little thing. Sorrengail is Xaden's dragon, and you get to know her a little bit. But I loved the connection between Xaden and Sorrengail. He cares for his dragon so much, almost like it's his mom in a way. They have a really strong connection, which I really love seeing that side of Xaden. And then I do love that Sorrengail and Tern are mated. And I think once I knew that in the story that they were mated dragons, I was like, oh yeah, then Xaden and Violet 100% is gonna happen. That moment when I found out they were mated, I was like, okay, story, what's gonna happen? I was so excited to find out they were mated because that just added a whole nother layer to the story.
Do you think that Tern picked Violet because him and Sorrengail sensed that Violet and Xaden were an actual match?
Maybe.
Because I kind of got that vibe. Obviously
I think Sorrengail, what happened is Sorrengail met Violet right after Parapet, okay? And she was standing right in front of her, and Violet stood her ground, wasn't afraid of Sorrengail, and she was this big blue dragon, right?
Yeah.
And I think her being strong and firm, and then since Xaden and Sorrengail have their whole telepathy, that they have going on in their bond together, I think Sorrengail started to get to know Violet's personality and know that she was brave and that she had courage and all these things. And I think that Sorrengail probably did let Tare know, hey, there's this cadet here that has these, not thinking she's telling Taryn to come to pick her or anything, but just maybe, you know, they're mates. I'm sure dragons, I don't know what dragons talk about when they're just talking, but I'm sure at some point she told Taryn, and then Taryn had an interest at some point. And when he knew that Andarna was in trouble, Sorrengail was there on the side, remember, with Xaden.
Yeah.
So I think Sorrengail told Taryn, hey, that girl that I've been telling you about, she's here protecting Andarna. And I think that's when Taryn came and like officially decided he was gonna pick Violet.
Yeah,
that's what I think happened.
I think you're on point with that, and I think like even so, then taking back what I said, like if they didn't sense that Xaden and Violet were a pair, maybe they thought, okay, these two should be a pair.
Yes, maybe
because Violet is, you know, she's gonna stand up for what's right, right? Like she did not want to see Andarna get basically murdered because everyone thinks she's just a tiny dragon, when in reality they don't know she's actually a baby dragon. They just think she's a little dwarf dragon, which is not true, right?
Which is going to hurt the wing.
Yeah. And so with her standing up to 3 grown men who are actively trying to kill her, I think they probably thought like this is a good match for Xaden, because they know if Taryn does pick a rider, that rider is connected to Xaden. And so they want someone who's equally as fierce and loyal. And Violet is nothing but fierce and loyal. All right, guys. So we had to pause the episode because Noel's earpods died. So we totally forgot where we left off. So we're just gonna start somewhere else right now. But I think we were talking about Taryn and Darna, and how Violet went and basically put herself between Andarna and the 3 men to save her, and just how, you know, fearless and loyal and compassionate Violet is. And, you know, whether, you know, she knows she can be killed, she's still gonna do what she feels is right, which at that moment was stick up for this little dragon, which I think she kind of viewed almost like herself in a sense, because everyone's looking at her at the college as the weak little one that shouldn't belong, and then here's these guys saying, oh, let's kill the weak little dragon, you know. So I think for her there was that instant connection of she's always viewed as weak and little and she shouldn't belong, and here they are saying this about this dragon.
Yeah, because it's like she's the underdog fighting for the underdog, basically.
Yeah.
So I felt like, yeah, that would be an attractive characteristic to want to like maybe bond with. So Taryn was probably like, hell yeah, like she fights for the underdog. You know, even though they're big, like that's something to be respected.
Yeah, because he stands 25 feet tall, and I believe she's 6 feet tall. So there's a huge difference. Like 6 feet. Yeah, she's about 6 feet. Well, you got to think with her head and everything, but her shoulders are below 6 feet. But with her head, she's really small, because even
she's not biteable. She can't carry a human. She's too small.
I thought you were saying Violet. I was like, what? That's not 6 feet.
Yeah, no. And Darna can't even carry Violet because she's so small. And so I feel like there was that instant connection with her. And I think with Darna, when she saw Violet, there was also that instant connection.
Yes.
I also think when they were going through, I forget what it was called, but when they were doing the presentation, I believe it was called, and she saw how Violet was not scared of the 2 dragons that came up to sniff her. She just was very cautious. She let them do their thing, talked to them and let them back up. I think Andarna realized like, okay, this is a good person.
Yeah.
You know, she's trying to keep everyone else calm, and going, and, you know, wasn't trying to antagonize or belittle any of her cadets, even if she hated some of them. Unlike Luca.
Jack Barlow.
Oh my God, Jack Barlow.
You can go on that one if you
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so let's talk about the protagonist, Jack Barlow, aka the Draco Malfoy of 4th Wing. This guy was a jackass the whole time. Like, I don't even know why he just instantly didn't like Violet. Like, there was literally no rhyme or reason. He just saw her on the parapet, he was behind her, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you. And then that theme just kept going. That's the only thing I found weird. Like, was it because he was jealous she was a Sorrengail, or just because he viewed her as weak? And
I think it's just because he viewed her as weak, and he's a bully, and you always have to have at least one person to bully.
Yeah. I did not like his character, but I do love the fact that she put a dagger in his shoulder and she almost killed him with oranges.
Yes.
That cracked me up when they were, battling on the mat and she shoves the orange in his mouth basically, or the little pill of the orange.
Yeah.
And how when she wakes up in the hospital, Zayden goes, "Oranges? Really?"
Yeah,
Like,
I
how
love
did
it.
you know this?
Yeah.
I just thought it was
That's
great.
because she's very perceptive, and it says in the book, she watches people and she sees what they're eating and what they're not eating. And there was one point in the story, and I didn't catch it when I read it, but when I listened to the Audible, I was paying attention closer. And there's one point where one of Jack's friends offered him an orange, and then Jack's like, "What? Like, I can't eat those." So
Yeah.
she remembered that, and then she remembers seeing him at breakfast never eating the oranges. He would leave that off on his plate. So she's just a very smart girl.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she could have been wrong. Maybe some people just don't like oranges, but she had a feeling that it would do something to him, and she was right. So I love that about her.
Yeah, it was a calculated risk for sure, but it paid out for her in the end. I mean, the fact that she would poison all the people before going up to challenges,
but poison them, not to kill them. Like even
Zayden
said, she would do it just to win the match or not actually have to do the match with them. But she never really wanted to murder or kill anyone ever.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could definitely tell that's just not her type. I mean, she was forced to go into the squadron. She never wanted to. She wanted to be a scribe. Someone who doesn't harm people, someone who, she's very docile in that aspect, that she does not want to harm people. She would rather help people. But she's being forced into these uncomfortable circumstances where she does have to hurt people. She doesn't want to kill them though, but she is getting to the point where it's kill or be killed, and that's kind of like where that Game of Thrones aspect, Hunger Games, comes in. Like Katniss didn't want to kill people, but it was like, shit, if it's you or me, you're going next year. Right. Type of thing. So I just love it. But so yeah, I'm having a brain fart moment. So what do you think about Jack Barlow and all the evil people? Amber,
I forgot about her for a moment, but I'm like, oh yeah, she let everybody in. Jack Barlow, oh my god, I was just like waiting. I was like, please have an end scene for this man, but he did help kind of bring a lot of tension and like keep the story going. But
yes, agree.
He was pure evil, and I mean, yeah, back to her, like she wanted to weaken people to where it's like, I don't have to kill you, but it's kind of like knock you out, survival.
Yeah.
But he just, him, Amber, I can't believe she tried to be like, it wasn't me, and like lied. And it's like, there's so many people that could see right through that, but she's like, not me.
Oh, yeah. Especially for someone who's like so strict to the codex, like that. I mean, Eward Dane is like, no, that's not possible. And I think Amber did it because she was mad because Violet basically showed her up and proved that she was wrong on the day they did the gauntlet. With the knife, the dagger to pull herself up. That Amber doesn't like being proven wrong. And I think for her, it was actually personal in why she did that. I don't think it was like to get rid of the weak. I think it was personal.
Well, adding to the personal, could it not have been something personal with Dane? The jealousy of Dane, like the fact that Dane actually kind of loved Violet a little bit, and the jealousy of that, women can be
oh yeah, because wasn't it was pretty much alluded that Amber and Dane had something the previous
year.
They
were close friends the year prior.
Yeah. So I'm like, I feel like she was jealous.
And even if they didn't have anything physical, maybe she had feelings for Dane, and then she saw Dane had feelings for Violet, so she figured if she takes Violet out, then Dane's all hers. But little does she know, Violet doesn't want Dane. She wants Zaddy. She wants him now.
I'll take a Zaddy.
Right. Okay. So speaking on it, let's kind of dive into the relationship of Violet and Zaddy here, as we're calling him. I mean, to me, just how much they absolutely hated each other, and then the scene where we really start to see that there's chemistry is when the dragons are mating. and their feelings are rushing Xaden and Violet. And Violet is basically like, I'm going to jump anybody. And when she opened the door and Liam is standing there, I was like, oh God, like her and Liam? But no, she's like, she's able to control herself enough. And then she stumbles upon Zaddy, who's getting high. That whole scene cracked me up because I could just picture her being like running through the halls, like trying to like stay away from others and, you know, just running. But what are the odds that she runs and she runs right into him?
Oh, yeah, it's a story.
But and it's funny where she's like, you're not allowed to have that. And he's getting high. He's like, hey, you gotta block it out, right? And when he says, if you don't, it's gonna lead to a couple mistakes. Trust me, I know. That makes you like, so how many times before he could block them out had he made whoopsies with a couple of other cadets, you know? Because obviously he feels like embarrassed and ashamed of it, because you could tell he's the type of person who's always poised and controlled, doesn't show his emotions and things.
He doesn't want to fall for anyone. He doesn't want to fall in love. He doesn't really. Only the children of the rebels are the only ones that he even allows to get even remotely close to him.
Yeah.
So if he did ever have like little sexual encounters with others, I'm sure it was just the act and nothing else besides that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, he's a 23-year-old guy. Like, come on. Like, yeah. And then if he's feeling those emotions from the dragons.
Yeah, exactly. So then that makes you wonder who. Like, and you would think it would have been Imogen, which is what, you know, you think until you find out that she actually has a thing for Garrick, which makes you think, like, do they actually have a relationship? Like, I hope that's expanded in the next book, like, where they go. Because I do feel I see her and Imogen becoming friends as the story progresses.
Slowly. Especially with the last fight and battle, of course.
Yeah. So, and you know, obviously with her getting closer and closer to Xaden, and these are the people who are close to him that he trusts with his life, you know, she's going to become friends with them. But I mean, just their relationship, how it progresses, how, you know, obviously when she gets her signet and her power, you know, and when they first consummate their, not even a relationship at that point, they're friends with benefits essentially, or the one night stand. How the freak can they break her armoire? They break everything but her desk. Like, or no, they break her desk. They break everything but the bed.
Not her bed, because they don't touch the bed.
Like, and how she lightning and like fire. Yeah, just it
she's got to get her signet under control.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's just crazy. So it makes you wonder, like, with all of the cadets, though, if they are letting their emotions go rampant, what would their powers do, right? Like, he obviously could control shadows. So if he was like losing his emotions while he's with someone, what did the shadows do? What about the character that can move metal? What about Rhiannon, who can move objects? Like what about those that catch fire, ice and stuff? Like, can you imagine like just doing that and poof, your sheets are on fire? Like, I mean, did you guys ever think about that at all? Like, because obviously she's obviously not the only one, like, but she obviously doesn't know how to control her powers. And so, you know, that's going to be scary, like, especially in there, like they get these signets, they get their powers and, you know, their emotions, especially if they're in a delicate state, like what happens? And obviously we know, like, one of the characters, he basically burst up into flame in class when his power decides to come because he can't control it. Can you imagine if you're in a very intimate moment and that happens? Like that.
Yeah, you're like, this is so great.
Right? And I don't, I had just thought of that when I was listening to the book earlier, because they were talking about one of the characters, like ice, and it froze him and another cadet that was within close proximity, and that's how they died. I don't know if you guys remember that scene, but I was like, that's crazy. And that's just them in class. That's not them with full emotions. That's not them going through stuff. So I feel like book 2 is going to be going more into that, learning how to control the powers while also dealing with, obviously, the lies that have been told by the government. So, which, No, there's lies. There's lies for sure. But yeah, so I'm hoping that her relationship with Xaden, he could kind of help her navigate and control her powers. But we obviously learned she's a quick learner. She learns very fast. And hopefully that will progress. But I don't know. I'm excited to see where it goes, especially with the relationship being on rocky grounds right now. Like where are they going? Are they going to be an item? Are they not? Is she going to run off to another guy? Is he going to chase her? What's happening? Or with the revelation at the very end, is she going to realize why Xaden could not be fully honest with her? Because would she have believed him?
If she is going to be that mad at Xaden for not telling her something that he really, it was going to hurt an entire kingdom of people, right? Which I agree. He should not have told her, no matter how much he trusted her to a certain degree, because she is a Sorrengail. Yeah. And because people could get that knowledge from her, like Dane could get it from touching her memories and whatnot. And I feel like if she can eventually forgive her brother, who's been quote unquote dead 5 years, then she needs to forgive Xaden. Because wouldn't you think you'd be more mad at your brother for faking your death and making you grieve him, which also made your dad die because your dad was dying of a heart attack. So I'm thinking the next book, when it starts, if she just runs to her brother and is so happy, I'm going to be the most pissed off, because she needs to be mad at her brother as well if she's going to be mad at Xaden.
Yeah. The brother, that's what made me mad when I read that, is because the dad died. I mean, you and our mother had a heart attack when our sister passed. Like, so we've seen that firsthand. And obviously the dad dies of a heart attack. And it's like, because the brother faked his death. Like that's complete like selfishness. No matter if he has good intentions, like what he put his family through was horrible. And his dad, couldn't overcome the grief and died, which then had a trickle down effect, right? But
leads me to believe that the dad did not know what Brennan was going to do. Because I feel like if the dad knew what Brennan was going to do, he wouldn't have reacted that way. So I think when Brennan did it, and we'll find out hopefully in the next book, right, why he did what he did. I
have a theory.
He couldn't have told his dad because it had to seem real. Does that make sense?
Yes. So believable. I have the theory that the dad does know more about what's across the border, obviously being a scribe.
Yes, I believe that.
Yeah, he gave Violet the book, which which is there's no other books of this, like in Navern. Yeah. And
Navarre.
God, I can't talk today. Anyways. I think he knew that, like, obviously we know like mythology and stuff does stem from reality to an extent, right? So the dad may not have known that these creatures were real to that extent, but I think he had an inkling like, hey, this is our past, right? So like read up on it. And I think Brennan was out as a writer, and I think he stumbled across the truth and came across it. And
like wrong place, wrong time type of thing, something like that.
Yes. Right. And I think he was a part of working with the rebel kid's parents. And a part of the ploy was him faking his death. But I think the parents knew that they would be executed. And I believe that they willingly sacrificed themselves to let their children carry out what they knew to be the truth. That obviously the Venom and the Wyvern are real. That these bad things are real. And this stuff is going on across the border, and it's not as peaceful as we think. And it's not like there's this picture being painted, and it's not reality. And, obviously the rebel kids know the truth, and they're trying to bring it to light. So now they're working with.
Well, not necessarily, because Xaden had never seen a Venom or a Wyvern. He didn't really believe that they were a thing until he came across them.
But I think it was the ignorance is bliss
type thing. Stories were told to those families. Yeah. But like other families.
He believed the parents, though. I think he believed. Yeah. I think the rebel kids believed their parents, because why would your parents go up against the government if they didn't believe this to be true? in their core. Whether, it's that seeing isn't always believing, right? Like, I think they believed this. And so the parents, thought, okay, boom. And even if they hadn't seen the wyvern or the venom, they saw the people across the border suffering regardless. Like, they saw the suffering. And so the rebel parents wanted to fix that, right? Like, these people may not be a part of your nation, but they are still people at the end of the day. They're still suffering at the end of the day. And we as people have a responsibility to help others out that are in need. Right. And I think the rebel parents, that was the core. Like, they wanted to help them, and the government said, well, you're traitors, right? These are our enemies, not really knowing that they're actually not our enemies. It's like these evil things really are. But I feel like the brother, faked his death, and so he's been working with Xaden. But I do think the main reason he could never tell Violet that is because Dane had been secretly, I think, touching her to get the memory. Because every time he'd go up, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm thinking back, like, he would do that. He would grab her
He
nipples.
did a lot. I didn't notice that till the end where they revealed it. And I was like, oh my God, he did. He touched her face a lot.
And that's when I was like, my jaw dropped when I realized that asshole, like, he was secretly doing that. And I think Xaden knew, because he had always watched her, because remember, he could see things through the shadows. So he knew what Dane was doing. And so it's not that he didn't trust Violet, he didn't trust Dane around Violet.
And I would agree, he shouldn't trust Dane.
Yeah. And so I think he has the moral high ground on this. Like, he kept a secret because he knew if Dane found out, Dane, being the good little puppet he is, would go straight up to and then have not only all the rebels killed, but like much worse. And so I think in book 2 we're going to get more of like her learning why Brennan faked his death, why he's working with the rebel kids, why the parents were really executed. I think we're definitely gonna learn that. I think Violet is gonna I think in book 2 I don't think she's going back to the college. Just saying. I think I predict that it's going to be more of a war, and I don't think she's going back.
Kind of off side note, but I would like to know about Xaden's the 107, whippings.
For each of the kids.
Yeah, but I feel like there's more to that story that they might expand on. Like, why did he make that deal? Do you know what I mean?
Because if not, all the children would have been murdered.
Yes, but
so by him, he was the oldest child. He was the oldest child. And so he made that deal to take the lashings and to put all of them through the subscription to go into the writer's quadrant to give them a chance at survival. Whereas if he wouldn't have taken those lashings for them, they would have all just been executed on spot. So by him doing that, it gives those children a fighting chance at least.
But I feel like there was more to it. Like, why was he chosen? Just because he was older? I mean,
I think it was
his dad was the main. Fenn Ryerson was the main. Yeah, his dad was the main one that was starting the rebellion.
And I think it leads to him, like, he's going to do what he thinks is right. And I don't think for him, he could sit there and watch a 1-year-old be executed. If you think about it, the youngest would have been 1.
Yes.
And he was the oldest because, he was pretty much 18 at that point.
Around there, yeah.
17, he was around 18 when that happened. And, the youngest, because at the book, he says the youngest is 6. So at that point, they would have been 1 at that time. Like, I don't think I could sit with my conscience knowing that a 1-year-old or even a toddler or a little kid is going to get killed. If I had to take a lashing to save a kid's life, like, I'll take a lashing to save a kid's life.
Well, he was old enough at the time his father was executed, and I think he knew his dad wasn't a traitor.
Yeah.
So that's also why he's like, well, I'm also not going to put myself to death. And who knows, from Xaden, how good of a writer and everything is, he might have maybe wanted to be a writer anyway himself personally. So he's like, well, I'll take the lashings and put everyone else through this. And if they don't make it, they don't make it. And that's on them. But I at least gave them a chance.
Yeah.
That these kids could live to 20 at least. And then at 20, go to the college. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I think that proves it, going through that, number one, losing his father because his mother had passed or was out of the picture at that point. But, watching his father die in front of him, watching all the others die, and then seeing all these children now with no parents and no family, I think that pulled on his heartstrings a little, and I think he stepped up to be like the new leader, and he basically is, because they all follow him. Like Liam's like, we owe him our life, because without him we would have been executed. And so that's why they have that undying like loyalty to him, which they should.
Yes.
They should. And so I just, it kind of shows just how much of a good man he is at his core. No matter if people think he's a traitor, if he's bad, he's actually a really good man. And in my opinion, I think Dane is going to end up being the villain in the story in the end. I think he's going to be the big baddie, because I think he's going to realize like the extent of the relationship that Violet and Xaden have and their bond, and that she's going to side with Xaden 110%, which I can already see coming. But Dane just being Dane and being ignorant to the truth, he's just going to be a good little puppet and do what he says. And I think he's going to end up being the big protagonist towards the end. I don't know about you guys, but that's what I think.
I think that's probably pretty accurate. It's sometimes always like the one who seems good ends up being the evil villain in the end. It's always like who you don't expect sometimes, like twist and turn. But yeah, the fact that he told his father, Aentos? Is that correct?
That's their last name, yeah.
Yeah, like
General.
And then this whole shebang started with the war games, like, and how that happened. Like, he's already a villain in my mind after what happened. And there was definitely deaths. Like, how many happened during that? Like, scene?
Yeah,
a lot. And the fact that they know, the government knows what's happening to these innocent people across the border, and they just let it because, oh, well, they're not a part of our country. And it's like, but they're right there. And like, you read the scene about the parents like dragging their dead children away from the roads. I don't know if you guys caught on to that.
Yeah.
But that, and it's like, they couldn't evacuate. And it's like, obviously the Ryerson, the rebel parents saw these things and decided to stand up to the government because it wasn't right. And yet they were executed because they were traitors, when they really weren't traitors. They were just trying to, bring awareness and help, and maybe stand up to a corrupt government, which I think is what is very corrupt at its core. And I think the mother knows the extent of the corruption. She's definitely in the corruption.
Maybe like you're saying, or you said it previously, maybe it was the other video we did without the spoilers, but the mother may have known somehow that Violet would be a lightning wielder, which they haven't had for over 100 years. No one's wielded lightning. So who knows, maybe she seems like this bitch that forced her daughter to go that way when her daughter wanted to be a scribe. Maybe she knows that somehow Violet will come back, return to Basgiath.
Yeah.
With lightning, that she can just kind of be the biggest badass, especially with Taryn and Sorrengail at her side and Xaden.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the mom wanted all along or something. You never know.
Well, that, and I'm like, or the flip side, the mom really is evil. Maybe the mom actually killed the dad because maybe the dad knew.
No, maybe to hide something.
Maybe the dad did know and knew about Brennan, and the mom poisoned the dad.
Yeah, we don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just going off on like, where can this story take us? I mean, because it's very possible with with Violet knowing poisons and stuff, it would be easy for the mom to figure out how to, make it look like someone has a heart attack, because maybe she realized that like, maybe the father is learning what he shouldn't, because obviously she knows Venom are real. She obviously knows because she has the weapons to kill them. So she knows that they are real.
Well, I was going to bring up that point. So I agree with you. It's like, I feel like the dad knew more than what they're saying and letting on. Like that he was giving her these books that were quote unquote banned. She could never find, And so for me, I'm like, he was trying to maybe educate her on her future. Like he had a feeling like she would be able to understand that this stuff is real and how to handle it. He was giving her all the tools. And maybe, like you said, the mom might have killed him because he was giving her the tools to conquer these people while her and her bad people were using them to kill off the villages so they could have power, maybe. But her father didn't believe in that.
Well, and what if her becoming a scribe if she became such a high level scribe, she would have uncovered the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point would have made it public knowledge of what's really going on. I think that maybe that's why the mother put her in the thing. I really think the mother put her in the Rider quadrant to die.
Oh, she had ulterior motives, whether it's a good reason or a bad reason, we don't know. But she had reasons. I mean,
yeah. Well, that's why we're just like kind of speculating, like, where can it go? Either this way or that way. I think the mother did not want her to become a scribe, and if the dad was alive, she would have gone into the scribe quadrant. And I think she knows that for a fact, because the dad would have said no and stuck to his ground, like, no, Violet's a scribe like me. But with daddy out of the picture, mom makes the decisions. Mm-hmm. And mom doesn't want her to become a scribe. And mom knows that if she goes in the writer's quadrant, there's a very good chance she's not going to survive. And because Violet, as we know, is very smart. She is her father's daughter. She's very bright. She figures things. She's very quick. And I think the mom is a little scared of that, knowing that she can't hide stuff from Violet that long, because she will find out. That's just my theory. But I'm that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. So is that mommy is not as innocent and as good as, we would hope. So but yeah, so anything else you guys would like to talk about before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered it all.
I know you had one thing that we were talking about, is the irony in the book. There was some irony.
Oh, just how she was stabbed with the poisonous dagger.
The irony of the poison, yes.
And even when she was like a kind of semi-conscious while Xaden was carrying her, she's like, of course, like, it has to be poison, which she's normally the one doing the poisoning. She was poisoned.
Yeah. I'm so excited for the second book. You got to order it now. It's on pre-order if you want it.
I gotta get the first and the second at this point, because I like a visual as well.
So obviously our background is from the book. So, but thank you guys so much for joining. I know we were kind of all over the place, just kind of discussing just more naturally, not really doing like a script or questionnaire. We did have questions to go off of and decided, you know what, let's just kind of talk about it and see where it leads us. So the one thing I will leave you is we are Team Zaddy. Not Team Dave.
I love the fan art. Okay, bye. No,
right? The fan art is great.
There's a few fan arts out there exactly how I pictured him and exactly how I pictured Violet. And they're AI versions, but I love them. I mean, really, when I was reading the book and I saw the fan art, I was like, that is exactly what I was envisioning. So I love it when that happens, because that means that the author did a really good job of the character's personality and the physical descriptions. Do you know what I mean?
Can I just say one thing with Taryn? Okay, as I was reading the book, you know whose voice I was imagining? What's his name? From
James Earl Jones or something?
No, from Dragonheart. Oh gosh, what's the actor's name?
Oh, Sean Connery?
Sean Connery. That's the voice. I was like hearing Sean Connery in there, because Dragonheart. Like because in that movie he's a grumpy dragon, and so
that's Taryn is just like that.
That's how I was picturing him. And then with Sorrengail, I have more of like a I am like blanking on actors' names. Sigourney Weaver.
Okay.
For her, like, just more of her like stern, but like, just like like, I don't know, like more of a serious Sigourney Weaver. Like, that's kind of how I was like envisioning the voices. And then Andarna, I envision as like a little like 3 or 4 year old little girl just talking and very playful and happy and stuff. But I just thought it was funny, like, with Sean Connery. That was the voice I was hearing when I read it. I was like, okay, here we go.
I think actually the lady who played Cersei, Lena.
Oh yeah, she would be good. Her voice for that would be amazing. Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know if she does a lot of voiceover, but I think she could totally do it.
Whether she does voiceover or no, she's great. Yeah.
She played very, very well, Cersei and Lena. So I vote Lena.
Oh yeah. She definitely has a very her voice can be very scary. Like, I'd be like, if she told me to shut up, I'd be like, okay, ma'am. Like, her voice and everything. But she also has a very beautiful voice. But yeah, it's very commanding. But I'm excited for book 2. Can't wait to have it. Brittany, who obviously wasn't here because she's busy with moving and everything right now. She actually just started listening to the audiobook like 2 days ago. So we'll see what her thoughts are on everything. But thank you guys so much for joining. Noel, thank you for joining from miles away. Thank you for driving 15 minutes over to come and record.
I'm so smiley. I'm not so smiley.
Right. So, we're gonna hopefully start reading some other book series, and we'll get Noel's opinion, and if Lauren wants to kind of become a part of our book club and start reading our recommendations. I don't know, Noel, if we should have her read A Ruin of Roses.
I don't know. I love Ruin of Roses series, and I'm so excited there's going to be another book to the series. It just depends on if she
do you like porn in books? Because that's pretty much what it is.
Oh, wait.
I mean, let's just be honest. It's book porn. It is. It does have a good storyline. So it does have a good storyline. The plot is actually very good. It just depends if you like.
It's a spicier series, so
it's full 5 spice, which is the max. Like it's full.
It's even spicier than this book.
This I would rate as like a 1.5, 2. No, not even maybe 3 in like one scene. But yeah, no.
Spicier than this.
Yeah, A Ruin of Roses is full on.
Wow.
Full on. And that's why I say it's book porn, because it is like at that level. Like, yeah. But the storyline is very good with it. I know Noel really liked the series. I wasn't as big a fan because I'm not really big into like that much sex in books.
Yeah.
I like a good story. I don't mind a few sex scenes here and there. So like Fourth Wing for me was like the perfect amount. I thought it was good, and I thought the scenes were crucial to the storyline and the plot. I thought they really helped build their bond
connection.
Yeah. So, but we'll see. So we'll see what other book series, and if you read some others, you'll join us again, and Noel, you can join us.
All right, sounds good.
But all right,
all right.
have a great day. Thank you for joining, guys. Bye.
Bye.